Hi, everyone. You're welcome to this show where we discuss issues on national development. And today, I have my very good friend here, Moustapha Toure from Senegal.
Sure, sure.
Wow, I love this. How you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, I'm good, bro.
Wow. You've decided to come and represent your country here today.
Exactly.
We really want to know so much about Senegal. But before we start,
hmm
Senegal Jollof,
hmm
Nigerian Jollof, which is the best?
Senegal.
Why do you say so?
Just because based on the name Jollof,
Mm,
Jollof comes from Senegal. Jollof is an area in Senegal.
yeah.
Yeah. Jollof, even in our history,
Yeah.
when you say when you want to say Senegal, in our local language, you can say Jollof.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're looking at the historical context, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever tasted Nigerian jollof?
Not yet. But
Oh,
anyway, I'm sure
so
ours is better.
on what basis is your judgment?
Anyway, I rely on ours.
I have tasted Senegal. I've
Right?
tasted Nigerian jollof.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'll tell you Nigerian jollof is the best.
Really?
So let's end it there.
Anyway,
All right. We are not debating jollof today.
right.
We really just want to talk about Senegal.
Mhm.
Uh, um, Senegal is going to the polls on 25th of February.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, what are the major issues of the manifestos of various parties? What are the issues
Mhm.
in this election?
In this election, yeah. So maybe first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about this country because Senegal is somehow famous in
Mm,
Africa because of its geographical position.
yeah.
Yeah, it is the the country that is situated uh, closer to the United States.
Mm,
Yeah, and also it is open to Europe, very open to Europe. That's why even in the past, uh, slavery, Senegal plays a great role in that because most of the time when white people when they came,
mm.
they based in Senegal.
Okay.
That's why we have there an island very famous, which is Gore Island, where
Okay.
they used to keep the slaves until the boat came to ship them to bring them in the United States.
Okay.
So even far from the history, we see that Senegal, because of its position, is an interested country,
Mm,
and let us say, many countries or many communities have interest on it.
okay.
Yeah, and it's a rich country also.
Yeah.
It's we call it in French Pays de la Teranga because our official language is French.
Mm.
Just some people speak English there.
Like
Even
you.
yeah, because I studied English,
Okay.
that's why. But our official language, most of the time,
French.
people they speak French, right? And now we are going to election, in, as you said, in February the 25th, and it's really a crucial event in the trajectory, in the political trajectory of our country.
Mm.
Why? Because Senegal is only the one country in Africa that has never known what we call coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat.
So it is a stable country, and that's why it's
Stable democracy.
yeah democratic, and that's why uh, it's a reference.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a reference in terms of democracy in Africa,
Mm.
especially in West Africa. And these Senegalese people, they are aware of the importance of this. So
Mm.
they need to keep those achievements in terms of democracy. But anyway, sometimes we see that uh, there are political tensions
Yeah.
to a certain to an extent that people they may think that maybe a coup d'etat may happen.
Mm.
But thanks to God, uh, these things we have never known, and we want to keep this. Let us say this. It's not achievement.
Mm.
We want to keep it. Senegalese people want to keep it. That's
Yeah.
why we want to go to election through transparency, through let us say respecting the choice of the people.
That's interesting. It's very obvious that Senegal is the reference point when it comes to democracy in Africa. You have now witnessed what some of us have witnessed in our countries, the undisrupted democracy. But let's look at the issues. What makes this election different from the previous elections?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because you are right. This election is really different from the two previous one. You know, since our independence, the first president of Senegal used to be Leopold Sedar Senghor. Yeah, from the independence up to the 1980s, and he handed over the power to Abdou Diouf. Abdou Diouf spent something like 40 years, 20 years there in power. Yeah, in power. So from the independence up to the hand of the regime of Abdou Diouf, it was the social party that was reigning.
Yeah.
Right. But of course, there are achievements, but at a certain point, people were not satisfied with that regime, and we wanted to change. And at that time, in 2021, I think, Abdoulaye Wade came in power with his party, the Democratic Power. So it was the first time we managed what we call an alternative, or a political alternance, pacifically, right? A change of power, pacifically, through elections. And Abdoulaye Wade had 2 terms, and he was also overcome by Macky Sall, the current president.
Okay.
Right? And for our constitution, you have just 2 terms. A president has only 2 terms. But the specificity of
2 terms of 5 years each now.
Yeah, it depends. For Abdoulaye Wade, it was because sometimes they are changing the constitution. Yeah, for Abdoulaye Wade, it was a term of 7 years and 5 years. The same for Macky Sall also, I think. And but you cannot rank more than 2 terms. This is our constitution. It's clear. But what Senegalese people think now is that we have been successful in political alternance. But how about development of Senegal? And we see that even though democratically we manage to change parties to come in power, people are not yet satisfied. Why? Because most of the time, for the current regime, for example, people think that they are ruling under the influence of France. Right?
Yeah.
And now, Senegalese people, or the great majority, they are aware, or they think that now we need a president who is patriotic, a patriot, who believes in patriotism,
who believes in Senegal, who believes in Africa,
who, let us say, who has even done all his career in Senegal, because it is important. And for that, there is the opposition. There is a famous one. I'm going to name him. His name is Ousmane Sonko, a young man, but he used to be an inspector of tax.
Yeah.
And in his career of 15 years, no one managed to corrupt him. Yeah, he's an uncorrupted person. Yeah, because from many witnesses, the companies he was auditing.
Yeah.
Many of them, they tried to corrupt him, but unsuccessfully. Yeah, and people are witnessing these kind of things, right? And that's why some people, many people believe in him, but he is, for the time being, he's in prison. Yeah,
Yeah.
because maybe the current power, they know that if ever he participates in election, for sure, in the first round, he may win.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from the from uh, uh, the number of population following him or having a great hope
Yeah.
on him
Sympathizers.
is a very big number. A very big number. Once he's outside in for a campaign, I'm telling you, all the population is behind him. Right, because of his, let us say, his speech, the speech he has. Yeah, his speech is based on believing in ourselves. Senegal, Africa, believing in ourselves. We believe that we have the natural resources, we have the well-equipped workforce to drive our countries to development.
Yeah.
So this is the specificity, because most of the time we have the politicians were promising, when you elect me, I will do this. When you elect me, I will do that. But for him, it's different, because even his campaign is funded by Senegalese, by himself, especially by the diaspora. So it's really difficult. It's really somehow different from the previous ones.
Yeah. In fact, I understand he's still in prison, and he's been disqualified based on that to run. So we'll still come back to that. When we talk about the success of democracy in Senegal, we often shy away from what we call institutional corruption, for political leaders to use their political powers to undermine the interest of the people. And we have seen a series of coups d'etat in Africa in recent years, and we've seen that pattern. And the argument has been, though some nations are not experiencing military coup, but they're experiencing constitutional coup. The president will be in power, wants to change the constitution in his favor, in his personal interest, not considering the interest of the majority. So do we call this smooth democracy?
Yeah, you know, I think this is current, as you say, this is current in Africa, because we have somehow weak democracies. Yeah, because in what we call the big democracies, the great democracies, the respect of the constitution is fundamental. When you go to the United States, they have never changed their constitution, right? Maybe the tax or the laws can change, but the constitution has
some amendments.
has never changed. All right. So maybe in the future, maybe it's a process. Maybe it can come in the future, but for the time being, for African countries, we have weak democracies, and also we have to be aware of the importance of the constitutions. But we have known some achievements, because the last referendum Senegal made is made by this regime. the current regime.
Yeah.
And in that constitution, it is said that no one can have more than two
2 times.
terms. By the time they were designing this constitution,
Yeah.
I think at that time they believe in that. But when their regime was going to its end, you know what's happening in Africa. When you are near to your hand, you want maybe to have another term.
Of course. How I see it.
Yeah. But for us, it's not possible. No one can change the constitution for the time being. Yeah. And now, to show you that they are living power by their own proposition of referendum. The referendum they propose, it bolted somehow the way of president to change when they want. This, it cannot happen now, based on how they edit the constitution. Maybe in the future, but for this period of time, these decades, or even this coming decades, I think it's not possible. And now even people are aware of the importance of the text. Yeah, especially the constitutions.
Okay.
So for that, maybe we believe that maybe it's challenging. It's challenging because we have many different parties, and the current president is leaving power.
Yeah.
Because of the constitution, you cannot have more than two terms. So you have to leave power. But as we know, most of the time, what they do is that when you leave power, you want to put another one, right?
Yeah.
This is their challenge now. Is he going to be successful or not? The election will tell us.
Let's come to the pulse of the people, the frustration, seeing someone that appears to be the voice of some group of people being silenced by the means of institutional power. Those are the things that leads to frustration, that leads to support of coup, violence, and all of that. So, what do you, as an ordinary citizen of Senegal, how do you assess the pulse of the people concerning that situation?
Concerning that situation, let us say just that we African people, we have to assess ourselves and to take into consideration what's happening in other countries. In those countries who now are going forward, there are many methods, political methods, bad methods that prevent Africa from development, right? And especially is through politics most of the time, because our main problem is the problem of leadership. Yeah. Africa has the natural resources, enough natural resources. And now we see that even we have more educated people. In every sector as you go in Africa, you will find engineers, you will find technicians. So you have the workforce you need to build your development. But unfortunately, we have a problem of leadership. Those who are in power, most of the time, they don't want others. They don't want others to come. They don't want others to, let us say, to come in power and innovate and make new things. Yeah. So it is, I think, as an ordinary citizen, these are bad methods. So, and it is also available to other African countries, because this kind of things most of the time we see it in Africa.
African countries.
Yeah, in most African countries. You see, when you go to the United States, when a president come in power, he know that by no way he cannot have more than two terms. By no ways. So he is just focusing on working on his 8 years, the chance he has, or even
4 years.
4 years. If in your first term, the population, if American people are not satisfied,
Trump didn't get the second term.
this is the example of Trump. This is the example of Trump. So the voice of citizen is fundamental.
Yeah, we can make easy arguments of the level of our democracy, though we're not where we need to be, but obviously we're making progress. There are the awareness across Africa now, the participation, especially the young people. We still witness this voter apathy in Senegal, same way we have even in Nigeria. And the Africa, most African countries have a young population. So what do you think is responsible for this voter apathy? People are not coming out to participate in the process.
Yeah. I think there are different factors, and among those factors, we can cite the responsibility of political leaders. Sometimes, uh, some citizens they vomit politics because they see that most of the time they promise, but they don't respect their promise. So by they end up uh, trying not to interest in politics. This is one factor. Another factor is also education. Education, because when you are not educating, you cannot understand the importance of what is an election.
Yeah.
And when you are not educated, you are not equipped enough to make a good choice, the right choice, to understand what's happening in this world, to know what kind of president you need. And this is also another challenge for African countries. To improve education, the level of education, right? And another thing also I think is somehow related to poverty. Poverty, right? Because as we say uh, in our local language, an empty belly do not have time to think.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right. So this also is another factor that make people sometimes they have other things to care more than about politics. Right? So maybe if we solve this kind of problems, poverty, this can increase the rate of voters.
Yeah, because when we bring in the hierarchy of human needs, survival comes first. Food,
Exactly.
shelter, clothing. Those are basic human needs. When people are denied those basic needs, I say that political leaders in Africa has weaponized poverty. Some have deliberately used that to to reduce the cognitive abilities of a very large population. So when it comes to election, they just dole out little money. They buy them, and these guys are ready to collect whatever is given to them.
Of course.
People go as low as getting cups of rice just to make their decisions to vote. So poverty is a very key issue in Africa, and going into Senegal's election, I hope that the young people are coming up to do advocacies. It's Rome was not built a day. Sometimes we feel when an election is coming, oh, we're gonna get the change we need. That is all we're looking up. We're looking towards to change the affairs of the country. But in the real sense, it doesn't happen. We end up are raising our hopes, and our hopes are dashed again. So I think uh, we should consciously begin to uh, talk to people, especially young people, to go out there to educate people on the importance of participation in democratic processes.
Exactly.
Young people need to come up. And that's what we've seen in Africa. Recently, in the last election in Nigeria, we see a very large participation of young people. Now we have young senators in Nigeria, younger than me, young ministers
Very
in Nigeria
important.
now, because there's just some level of awakening, you know, and that is happening across Africa. So let's come to development, which is very germane to our discussion. We look at the democracy. Fine, we said there has been uninterrupted democracy in Senegal. So juxtapose the development. We have not seen the development we want. Do you think the style of democracy in Africa is well suited for Africa?
I think for me, I strongly believe that it's not a matter of system. Yeah, this is my own belief.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of system. When you adopt a system, what is important is that people be aware of that system and to respect the rules. If we choose to rule by democracy, people should be aware of how we should lead with democracy and to respect the voices and everything. If we choose also another system different from democracy, people have to know the different rules, right?
Yeah.
So it's, for me, it's not a problem of system, because in the world, when you can notice that you can go in some democratic countries, they are successful,
Yeah.
but in other democratic countries, they are not successful, and it's the same system. For me, it's not a matter of system. It's a matter of having conviction to do or to lead in the right way, right? Because in our history in Africa, when you survey different, let us say, areas, everywhere we go, we will find a specific system of the community. Each community has had its own system.
Yeah.
Right? When you went to Mali, they had their own system. And you went to Nigeria in the past, they have their own system. Even in South Africa, it's the same, right? But in each system, you can find, let us say, positive things and negative things, because any system is perfect, but we have to improve them. But what is important is the citizen itself. When you take the citizen itself, it should be an uncorrupted person. The citizen should be well educated. The citizen should embody good values, right? It is very important to have good values. When you have good values, when you are appointed as a director, when you are appointed as a minister or president, you will lead based on your beliefs. So it is very important for people.
Let me come in there, because sometimes we make a mistake when we put too much hopes on individuals, and we find out that those individuals end up failing, not because they lack integrity, not because they lack good values, but because of the system around them. Now, we we should concentrate on building institutions. Fine, it is humans, it is still people that builds institutions. Right people, getting right people in the office to focus on institutions.